a frenzy. That's what they call that. Feeding it even.
Welcome to Let's Go Pulling, everybody. You're stuck tonight with the zombie crew because Jason's on vacation and several of us are returning from the East Coast. I've personally been up for 18 straight hours and I barely know what my name is anymore. We got Cody Vanderholm up there in the top right. We've got Doug Borth along with Brent Payne in the House of Horsepower that he's got down there in Southwest Ohio, and Kenzie with the remote cam, looking at all the awesome that's in that building. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good. So far, so good.
So far, so good. We haven't asked you any tough questions yet, so you'll be all right.
We're still
Doug, you're already there with Brent. I'm going to let you kind of lead this segment because, like I said, I don't even know what my name is right now. I'm just going to be button pusher.
All right, cool. Well, like you said, we're with Brent Payne. We are in the shop tonight, and he's going to kind of take us around and show us a few things. We talked a couple weeks ago a little bit about what happens here at GMS, so now we'll show you some of what happens at GMS. So where should we go first?
Well, we're here in the Galot shop, I guess you'd say. This is where we keep the team tractors that we work on here at nighttime, try to keep them separate of all the rest of the work. We kind of put this space together because we've got a lot of spare parts, and then we've got a lot of work. We scatter these things out from time to time and don't really want to affect the normal work in the shop. So
I've already got questions.
Go for
it. I see blankets on the tractor. You're hiding stuff.
No,
not that one. The other one. Turn the other one.
You can see everything you want to see. What do you want to see?
You can see everything on that one. Go to the other one where something's covering the cylinder head.
Oh, you can't see that one. That's secret.
Gotcha already.
No, it's this is the Galot #1 tractor that I drive. It's just in for winter service. We've got some turbo damage we got to correct, and it's pretty solid. It was running really good at the end of the year. It won the Enderley and did a couple of test pulls and tried a few things at Georgetown, Ohio, and wrecked the turbo. So it's hopefully it can go winter pulling somewhere. We'll see, but if not, we'll be ready to go in the spring. So we can look at the other one here, and I'll show you what's secret there. This is some real high-tech 1998 technology right here. Indy cylinder head, so it's nothing new. It's just covered up because it's getting valves checked out. It's actually got to come apart, and we're going to put the overhead cam motor back together and put it in it. But we run this engine a couple times a year to go to the North Carolina State Fair and a few other places, and it's sort of our test bed for the new light super stock project we're working on. So we've been beating it up a little bit, and we finally found the bottom of it. So it's got to come apart.
Is that so which power plant did you guys take to Fuel Tech and put on their hub dyno?
That would be the one that's in the tractor, the other tractor there. We had, we've kind of taken the mechanical fuel system, put it back on the tractor to run NTPA and PPL both. And we've been experimenting with the plug on coil stuff, and that's working out really well for another option. But all the electronic stuff is up on the shelf until the powers that be get their head out of their ass and let us run it. We're going to leave it there. So we've got about 30 grand worth of parts sitting there wasting time. So hopefully one day we can keep trying that out and learn some more.
I'd love to see that be a thing. Honestly, I really would. I think, and you certainly know this better than anyone else, that you're fighting that controllability. And I think that's a piece that can pardon the pun, backfire into the reliability as well, to be able to control through electronics.
Sure. I mean, the electronic system, we were this close to making it perfect. And as far as that goes, the only problem we had was driving away from the sled. So the takeoff was much easier. You could, it would spool the turbos easy and drive it around easy. You had less oiling problems, and it was just a cleaner all around operating system. But and once we got it sorted out, it was really easy. It didn't take us a lot of runs to get it sorted out with the help of the guys at Fuel Tech. So, but to go back to this system, then it's, we know this well, it'll work too, but it's just kind of the thing. We like to try new ideas.
What was it about driving away from the sled that was difficult? Was it a heat soak thing, or what was that issue?
It's kind of like with the O2 sensors, and we still run them to collect data, but they would just, like, it got overwhelmed when you shut the butterfly off, and then all of a sudden you got this massive charge of air stopped up in there, and the sensors wouldn't cooperate quick enough, so they just dumped a bunch of fuel in the engine and basically flooded it out. So
were you seeing a scenario where those O2 sensors were getting essentially flushed with methanol and just ruining their capability to read properly?
Yeah, that's right.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of the heart of the system, is to get a good O2 reading, and we were getting, like I said, it was the tune-up was really close. It ran quite well a few times with that, but there it is.
Kenzie, go back to that shot. I'm going to ask Brent a question about this on the Chargers. So on the high pressure, you've got slots, but the Atmos are gun drilled. And when it comes to the map width groove, why the differentiation, and what do you see from those?
That's what they sold us.
Okay. So
we deal with the company in Missouri.
Cody, make a note. We've got to get Hart on the show. We're gonna find out why.
Right.
Screenshot that, take a video.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. One was just easier to machine versus the other one. I think it does exactly the same thing. To be honest, we can go bigger on compressor wheels, so that really doesn't affect a lot. But it does give the turbo a little bit more range of operation RPM wise. So, I don't know if they've tested anything different from one slot type over the other, but we got what we got. So
I don't know. I certainly don't know. I'm not an aerodynamicist, so I'm not going to proclaim any sort of knowledge there as far as that goes. I do kind of wonder about the gun drill design. When you get swirl involved and it's a very linear path, if it's getting stall across the sweep, but
I know that the system on this tractor is much more difficult to get to light than the other tractor, especially with the mechanical system. The electronic, it would go. We could get it. We could change things around and make it spool really quickly. Now you got to really drive it much harder to get it to go. You got to fight with it a little bit, but that's a lot in the exhaust size and the compressor size. So I don't, you just have to call them guys and ask them, I guess. And when you ask them, see if they got a spare turbo for me down there. That one's broke.
Kenzie, I'm going to ask you to go back to the hot side of that tractor again. Sorry. I see stuff and I got questions, and go other side. Go to the other side. So on the diesel side, a lot of times everybody talks about when it comes to exhaust manifold design, keeping it short for heat retention, for drive pressure. What are you guys seeing on the alcohol world? Does it matter? Is a tuned equal length header where it's hitting that exhaust turbine with equal spacing of pressure pulse important, or is it still the same as the diesel guys where you just want to blast it with as much heat and as much force as you can, and the pulse width separation be damned?
You know, we've tried all kinds of header designs. This is actually the original Brent Long design header that came with the motors when Earl got them years ago. So we haven't changed that in 12 years or whatever. So what I've learned with the exhaust stuff is that, kind of like on the International 466 is the basic, you've got the intake manifold that feeds from the middle, and you got this long thing on the end. It's actually so you feed water in different places to try to even out the EGTs. Well, it's actually the exhaust manifold side that's driving the heat problems on the intake. So we find that just to get the exhaust drafted away more evenly helps even the cylinders up rather than the pulses, right? Because we're not really looking to spool the turbo quick. It's not a drag race, so we can take our time and get it there. But just making the exhaust flow more evenly. And we'll show you a header on the other tractor up here that's a little different, a lot different. And it really doesn't matter on this thing. It doesn't seem to matter what kind of header you put on. As long as it gets out of the thing and gets to the turbo and doesn't crack, we're pretty happy.
That's awesome. That's good knowledge. Appreciate that. Thank you.
But there's, we've got thoughts about making big, long, equal length headers and this and that. And at the end of the day, it's just more tubing. So we try to build what fits under the hood and what's easiest to work on.
Packaging, and then there's also the risk of cracking because you're going to have a lot more welds in it. And
Sure.
Yeah, heat cracking would be an issue. Yep. Have you experimented at all with venting the wastegate into the hot cross rather than just going straight to atmospheric?
We have. Yeah. There's places in there where we've tried that at.
The evidence says it doesn't work. So
Don't do it.
we've tried a lot of things. So this one's been chopped up and hacked on, and it's an experimental thing. So yeah, we've tried lots of different wastegate, and it haven't really seen a lot of difference either way. You can slow the top turbos down; it just speeds the bottom one up. So.
We've always heard from the alcohol side that really, it's less about max manifold pressure. It's more about volume of flow. And so what do you guys look at, and what are you looking for in terms of your charger setup, where there's not necessarily a boost number, which is, we could go super nerd on what boost number means as far as the restriction of flow, but flow numbers you're looking for to make the power you're targeting versus just screaming turbos to crazy shaft speeds where I find you're making this awesome boost number, but now for alcohol you're butting up against detonation problems.
So yeah, the turbo systems we've tried multiple types and combinations of different numbers and sizes, and bigger top, smaller top, bigger bottom, smaller bottom, this and that. And there is a trend that everybody wants to keep going bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think it is absolutely wrong, because there is a range that doesn't operate in, and you have to scream the motor hard to get those big turbos to spool and light and stay alive. And then you have no range on the other end of the track when it needs to pull down. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But my data collection shows me that it doesn't work. So the turbos on the tractor in the front are kind of more of a middle of the road kind of conservative setup, but also big enough. But that turbo setup works on a 504, it works on a 640, and it's one in the light class, it's one in the heavy class, and it'll drive from 4,500 RPM to 7,500 RPM. And that's kind of what we look for, is have a broader range of operation rather than just a light switch or something that takes like lighting a turbine to get going. So you got to be versatile and have a good range in this class, I think, to make them work.
So you're looking at something where it's a balance of, you know, you want the compressor size to be able to get the boost, but you also want to have the turbine match on the backside for equal pressure ratio, but the drivability, you know, if it's super wide open, yeah, it's going to flow a lot on the exhaust side, but it's going to be lazy and it's going to nose over on the big end.
That's
versus if you go too tight, now you're overspeeding them and blowing them out. If that sounds right.
Yeah, I mean it's just a balance we found, and you know, because we don't run intercoolers and we don't have, you know, 650 cubic inches, we've had to find a system that works for our tractors, and you know, it's taken some time, but it does give us the option, you know, that we do have the ability to run in all types of conditions because of the turbo setup. So, and that's pretty key on our program, is to keep something that's not too big and not too small.
So neither of these are 650s.
Nope.
I dare ask you, what are they?
Well, this is a 600 for 598.
598. Okay.
504.
504. Gotcha.
That's again, that's the motor that we just run on the regional push rod class.
I'd heard that. I always wondered. I'd heard that, but now to get confirmation of it. So that's good. Thank you for being honest.
That tractor there will run now with the combination we've got in that one. John swears it makes as much power as these do now, but we've yet to really put it to use in the application we can find out.
There might have been a time a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, a couple decades ago, where that same argument got had. You know, an overhead cam 504 was running with the 598s, and so it was there.
Yeah.
All right, Doug, I'm going to turn it back. You've been there all day. I'm going to put it back in your hands. Like, ask some interesting questions about what he's got in the shop. I'm done being a nerd.
So his boys are in the garden tractor pulling. So this is, I think he said, Dad's tractor.
Great grandfather. Yeah.
Great grandpa's tractor that they started restoration on.
Yeah, my grandfather or great grandfather bought that at a local dealership, you know, and there was a small dealership in the town close to here, you know, and he was the last lawnmower he bought, and one of my uncles ended up with it, and you know, they thought my kids were into garden tractors, they can fix it up. Well, it's been a long project, but they're getting close to getting finished up. So they buy and sell garden tractor parts, and they've got shelves of that stuff around here. And then over here they've got, you know, this is some of their pullers that they have. So they're into pulling. They do all their own work. I get them to the pull, and that's about it. Really, they're working enough now to get the tractors put together, and they buy and sell and work their way up, and they figure out the setups. And you know, with coaching from Grandpa and myself, you know, we kind of help them out with that, but they're doing really good at that. So they enjoy it.
So yeah, we had a good dinner with the boys tonight, and then now we're into
there's the garden tractor dyno. So my boys do run this, and they test their engines on here before they go. We kind of bought that from a go-kart guy, and so they're out there, and you know, in summertime when it's getting ready to go pulling, and they're out there running the garden tractor motors all hours of the day. So, but they do it all themselves. You know, they're 14 and 15, and they go out there and they get them things going on their own. So.
Was that a home built deal, or did you get the cell from Dynamite and then figure out how that
the guy
worked?
that raced go-karts had it, and he had it fit up so he could put a go-kart chassis up on there, and we kind of made some drives up to just put the Kohlers on. So,
gotcha.
Yeah,
I didn't even see that today.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. So will you get, just out of curiosity, Brent, will you get the same type of data on the small dyno as you will on the big one?
pretty close, yeah. It doesn't have near as many sensors. It's kind of a simple thing,
Sure.
but it gives horsepower and torque reading. That's our other dyno there, and then of course we got a sandblaster here. We use the sandblast blocks and rear ends and stuff like that. But we've got the wheel dyno is broken. We got to fix it. Hopefully this fall we can get working on it some more. But
so people were asking who all has a hub dyno. You now know GMS has one.
yep, and I could, if I could sink it in the bottom of the Atlantic, I would. But there it is. So we're gonna fix it and get it back going again, and try to work on a few things to test. So.
And then next we have the Light Pro.
Yeah, this is the Galot Light Pro. It's come back in for some service. We ran out of parts for this thing. Of course, everybody ran out of parts in the last few years. But so before Louisville, we had to sand the pistons and the belt sander to get it to go to Louisville. And I thought, man, this thing's not going to make it a whole season. But I'll be darned if they didn't take it down to North Carolina and win the state points with it this year. So John's son Holt has done a really remarkable job learning how to drive, and John's and him have gone out this summer and they've done really well with it. And the guys down there, Ben and Justin, they've kept it going. And yeah, it didn't break anything all summer other than a couple of lines that could come loose or something. So, and you can see on this thing, it's a header design that we had come up with for the diesel tractors years ago that nobody took over with. And it's the same motor that was built in this tractor in 2015. And we've upgraded the turbo on it. It's got the same exact injection pump that we bought from Hartz in 2015. It's got the same pistons and rod, the same size of everything, right? So only thing we've changed is the turbo, and it's still competitive now. So, it was built to run the best we could at that time, and it kind of got outdated. So we, this last year we give him a 2-year-old turbo to go out and run with and learn how to drive, and he did his part. So maybe he can get some more power this winter.
With the multi-charger tractor, we talked about the exhaust manifold, that it didn't matter. You've got multi-charger, it's just boost it and who cares. This one's a little bit more tuned. It's looking like a design that's intended to hit that turbine with equal pulse spacing. Is that important on the big end of the track where the load's hitting you and you don't want to fall under the charger because you're cubic inch limited, and so you have to have every advantage you can come up with. If you can hit that charger with equal pulse spacing, your stall potential maybe drops. Am I wrong in thinking about that?
No, that's pretty accurate. I mean, that's kind of one of the things it's kind of one of the reasons I stopped dyno testing so much, because stuff like this, right? We would test these things and they would be, maybe a few horsepower short on the peak number, but they had a broader range. The biggest thing we built it for was, you can work on this tractor. You don't have to take the manifold off every time you want to adjust the valves. You don't have to remove the turbo to do this. So this thing gets it right out front, and it's easy to work on. You take the whole cylinder head off and everything, manifolds, turbo, and all that attached to it. You can get out of the way, but it looks funny. So nobody bought it, right? I mean, we designed that 7 or 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, and couldn't sell another one. And but that tractor runs with the exhaust manifold and the intake manifold design on the other side. It runs the most even cylinder temperatures. It's got all the water nozzles are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So we've studied that to do that, but because it doesn't say Hypermax on it, or it doesn't, it's not run at a certain dyno, and so says they have it, they don't use it. We just don't, so we just left it on there. We use it for ourselves and go on. But I mean, that design there is probably the best you can have for a diesel. It's got the same paint on it since 2015. It's never been cracked. It's never been damaged. And that's what it looks like today.
And that was going to be my follow-up question. Did it ever crack? And you say, no, it doesn't. So it's like, and on top of that, like you can hear one of those exhaust manifolds work. It just sounds right.
I kind of got that, years ago, Carlton Cope had a similar type design, and he and I talked about that a lot then, and built one of those type of manifolds for the Campbell brothers when we kind of was working with them, and it worked really well. It always sounded cool. We took one of those log type deals that everybody sort of runs, where they all collect to the center off of Tim Stone's tractor years ago, because he was putting a manifold on it every year. He put a manifold on that tractor, and we built something similar to this that's sort of equal length. Has not been off for since, and it's been our 6 or 7 years. So the durability to me is more important than making another 20 horsepower at the peak number. And this absolutely has better range from bottom to top than anything else. But, we don't look at that. We look at the top number, right? So, but anyway, that's my
peak's only good for betting pieces of paper.
Right.
It doesn't win on the track.
That you throw up on the screen there, right?
So how do guys find you? And not only that, how do they find you as a business? But what are you guys known for? What's your production?
Well, we're going to go see that now. So
we got one more surprise in here before we go.
Okay.
And
we like surprises.
one thing that I have learned here today, everything that they try and do is built for maintenance ease. It's pretty cool on some of the things that are up and coming. But that's not
I promise I'm not gonna play back and look at those tires real close.
Which ones?
All of them.
So this is our fab shop. It's kind of it sits idle a lot. We used to have full-time fabricators, and we no longer have full-time fabricators. So the guys that come back here, we use it for our own maintenance and repair, and to work on some of our own projects. I would love to have a full-time fabricator again that would come down here and could, make use of the space, but we just don't have any right now. So we've kind of turned
Cody Fish here. Brent wants you to come back and work for him.
Yeah. Good luck with that. He likes to do some trucks too. So, yeah, Cody's a great fabricator now. He's turned into an excellent talent. So, but he got his start right here working on Pro Stock.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So yeah, this is kind of our shop. We just play back here now. Not play, but we try to experiment and try new things, and we can build about any kind of thing we want. This is the start of our new light super stock project we're working on. It's been on the table for a while, but we're going to finish it now. We've got everything that we need to make the chassis work, but the helper. So, and the machining side seems to be more where our demands are at, so we stick more up there. But we are going to try to get this thing finished here this winter and get it on the track by spring.
Keep moving. Let's go through the other dyno there. So he has a couple projects here. He said they got to finish up, and then.
Yeah, this is our dyno room that we use to tear apart rear ends in because we don't use the dyno much. The dyno is sold. It's going to Kentucky. Patrick O'Brien Diesel is going to end up with that dyno. We'll end up taking our equipment down there to dyno test. Everything works out right. So he's been coming up here and using it when he can or whatever. And, I don't have time to run the dyno anymore. The machine shop takes a lot of time. So, and it's kind of just changed from our model. We're more into the chassis and driveline and setup of the vehicle rather than the horsepower sales right now. So
on the machine shop side, obviously you guys have been big in rods. Like what's the specialty for you guys on machine?
We're going to walk over there now.
This, you can show him this. This is a limited light rear end to come back in for some repairs or whatever. But, we do the billet differentials and stuff like that for those as well. Planetaries, transmissions, and things like that. So the limited light classes it gets a lot of attention this year because we've got several rear ends to do. Lighter weight components, a little stronger. So engine parts, yes. Driveline components we're doing more and more of. So we can go up front now and take a look at that. So.
They even have a test track out here. Doesn't get used a lot, but there is one here. We'll see if we switch. We had an internet issue a little earlier, but I think we got that taken care of. So
I think we're all a little bit under the weather. Allergies have been terrible. So
It's that time of year.
And maybe.
And internet goes, yeah, not compatible with CNC.
Hashtag left the chat.
Yeah.
There we are.
I'm back. All right, we're back.
There we are.
Awesome.
So, in the last 5 or 6 years, we ended up purchasing Humpco Manufacturing from Bill Humphrey. Is a company that I, followed as a kid from the 2-wheel drive classes and other vehicles he built, and ended up having him build a chassis for us that I then sold to Scott Holgrew. So, when the time came to buy his company, we ended up buying the company, and kind of brought everything that he built in house and added to a nice product line. So we build, other than the ring and pinion, of course, some of the hardware, we build everything else in this unit. So this is a what like a 433 Meritor 20-145 ring and pinion, and a billet pinion housing, and one of our high-speed differential, or low-speed differentials, I'm sorry. So the Meritor is kind of a common newer truck type rear end, much more accessible than the Rockwell SQHD that's been popular and pulling for a long time. We've made this pinion housing to accept that ring and pinion. We can put it in the older type housing. So this is kind of a popular thing for some of the unlimited modifieds and modified tractors and things like that. Several super stock tractors run them as well. So, but that's kind of what a lot of our focus has gone to lately, is the differential side. So we can go over here and show you kind of how that all starts. We start out with raw material bar stock, and they go through the process of lathe turning blanks, and then over here to cut gears. So Doug and Kenzie shot some videos earlier. They're going to put up on the screen later sometime, but we make everything from spider gears to, this is a blank form, bar stock to blank to spider gear, all made in the machine here. This goes in every single differential. There's 4 of them in every one. So
it's pretty cool to watch those get cut today.
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys an alternative for like a needled cross for John Deere, IH, AC, etc.?
We make, of course, the component stuff, but we also do for John Deere and International. We don't do anything for the ACs or the cases or the Molings, or just not enough demand. It's a lot of development to get all that put in one package, but
Gotcha.
Not that we wouldn't, it's just hard to do ones and twos,
You mentioned back on that housing for the unlimited, there was the low speed aspect of it. I'd always thought, and maybe it's just a misunderstanding, that really you wanted to keep the speed going all the way out toward the planetary hubs. Am I misunderstanding what you're saying there? Or?
No, what the high speed, low speed means is there's a break in the differential, or the ring and pinion sets that determine that. So there's a different carrier. So in the SQHD, everything from 488 and slower was a low speed, and 463 and faster was a high speed. And then the Meritor, everything from a 411 and faster is a high speed, and 433 and slower is a low speed. So it's just a break in their carriers when they had to have a different offset in the flange.
I gotcha. Okay, so yeah, it's a manufacturing spec to differentiate what you're working with.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this is a hob that we cut splines on shafts. He's getting ready to do some input shafts. He did the back end this morning, and then do the front end tomorrow. So they got some footage of that as well. We've got different types of gear shaping equipment to do different types of setups. We got some that'll do internals and external splines, just how we kind of set them up. We run different 2 or 3 at a time, where we go from one to the other. Today he was cutting some crank gears for big block John Deere, so those were raw material. Then they go through quite a few processes, from bar stock to to prepping for normalization. Then they come back and they get blanked out in the lathe, and they go teeth cut, and they go to heat treat, then they go to black oxide. There's several steps to making one gear. But so yeah, we got everything's kind of set up to do different stages. So.
Were you guys at one point engaged in doing not full clutch setups, but flywheels anyway?
We never did any flywheels.
Okay.
Yeah, never did that. Just stayed out of the clutch market. I mean, not to say we wouldn't get in there one day, but just right now, this is kind of consuming all our time.
So the gear work's big. What's GMS's bread and butter? Gear work is obviously important, but
it
what else
is.
are you guys into?
That's kind of the big thing now. I mean, this is a stack of axles for international tractors, so 706, 1066. With limited pros and light pros making 3,000 horsepower, they break those, and you don't want wheels going down the track. So we make these are ready to get gun drilled to be hollow for lightweight, and then they'll go to heat treat and be done. And, we got the hubs over here that we've made that they'll spline on the other end, and they go through quite a few processes too to get finished. But we're trying to do the driveline side is about, I'm going to say about 50% of what we do now.
Gotcha.
The engine parts was most of it before, and now it's probably 50%. Yeah. This is one pro stock engine we work on. It's the last one.
You're muted, Doug.
Yeah.
Oh,
There we go.
There you go.
This was I don't know if you heard of this. This is one of the Rolling Stone, Tim Stone's engines here. It came back in for some service and a few repairs. So we do have some customers that have been with us for a long time that we're going to continue to service, and kind of trying to get, we want to maintain some involvement in different classes, but not take up all the service work. So trying to focus on supplying parts to other builders is more what we're going to do now. So bread and butter at the beginning was building engines and selling parts and all that, but now it's kind of building components for other builders. So we've got some engines we do. We got an assembly room in here that we used to have, 5 or 6 different projects going on at one time, and now it's more or less, where we right now got a couple of the lot projects we're getting ready to go back through and check out. Got one on the stand that's a spare. Over here we got some connecting rods that are coming here to get the bolts put in them and ready to go. And then this is where we work on the finished differentials at. We can final assemble or take apart if it's not too bad and recondition. So try to keep all the clean stuff in this room.
How much of what between the two Galat tractors, how much is John's the proven setup and yours is the let's find out?
The head to pan's the same. So it's kind of turbos and tires and fuel systems, ignition, that kind of thing. That's the differences. So, but I have a hard time doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm curious, and so constantly want to try things new. So we fail a lot, but then we succeed some too. So as long as we keep finding a little bit here and there, we keep trying new things. So
awesome.
we do. This is one of our reverser drives here for like the unlimited modifieds for most of these. We run these on tractors, say like Chuck Knapp or Bill Leichner or somebody. We use the pump to pressurize the pinion bearings because the pinion bearings fail a lot in modified tractors. So this way that this thing draws the oil out of the rear end and it pressurizes and shoots oil right into the back pinion bearing. So it's all a self-contained unit, bolts right up to the pinion cartridge. We've also retrofitted these into some international rear ends.
That's badass.
So it's this thing we buy the oil pump, but we make every other piece in it.
So in terms of power transfer, it's a straight through shaft, but
it's a straight through shaft, and it's got a counter shaft instead of a planetary gear set like some of the other reversers out there are. And so what that does is it allows us to have a slower reverse so you can back up a little easier. And it drives the pump constantly, but drives that pump straight. So it allows us to have a pump that doesn't have to have a switch, or, you know, it's constantly making pressure, even if you're in reverse or forward. So, but yeah, then there's just one big coupler that slides in here and you're direct straight through. There's no power loss through anything else.
That's brilliant.
So that was one of Bill's excellent ideas, and it's really panned out. I mean, he had some struggles at first with the shifting mechanism, but you know, after a while, he came up with this deal here to use this as the brake. So you would rotate this over, and it locks pins onto the coupler, and then when you put it back, it locks it in forward. So it keeps it from coming out of gear.
Anybody who thinks that tractor pulling is just a bunch of dumb hillbillies or farmers, you have no idea how much intelligence is baked into exactly what we're trying to do. I mean, this is a sophisticated motorsport, and a part like that, a piece like that, just, you know, it's exuding sophistication. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a piece that's you know, it lasts in the highest horsepower stuff in the world, right? So, and it's necessary. It fixes a few problems. It saves weight because it mounts right to the pinion. There's no bracketry to mount to anything else.
Yeah.
The shifting mechanism bolts off of here, so that's on there. It's pretty simple. It's repairable. It's you know, it's durable. You know, they have problems. I mean, they're going to have problems like everything does. If you grind it in gear, it's, you know, it's a little more durable than some of the other types are, but everything's got their advantages and disadvantages. This is what we see as, you know, as what we would build. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a nice piece to build. So,
Brent, how many years have you been in business and working on stuff like this?
I went to work for Gene Sharber in 2003. So I guess it's been a while. So
Just a couple of years.
Yeah. You know, before that, I helped him in the basement of his house in, you know, the late 90s, I guess. I'd some there. And then when my dad and him worked together on our tractor, I was down there quite a bit. So between, you know, my dad pushing me into this sport, which was great. I mean, ever since I was pedal pulling. And then, you know, guys like Gene Sharber that took me in and kind of taught me how to run machinery a little bit, manual equipment and figure engine math and all that. And then Bill Humphrey to give me the things like this and teach me the ways of gear cutting and heat treating and all that. I've had a lot of good help. So. Another thing we do, you probably don't want to show those names, but we can come from this side. We do a lot of Mercedes planetaries, and that's kind of something with the light super stocks. We sell to other builders of light super stocks, of course, too, but we kind of rebuild and recondition some of the older Mercedes systems. We've had some trouble, some growing pains, but we're wrapping our hands around it now. But the light tractors are making enough horsepower now, enough wheel speed, they're starting to have trouble with these things. So we're constantly trying to make the heat treat processes and material better, the bearing systems, the oiling, all that. So that's the one on the left is kind of the stock retrofit, or the stock version that everybody else has kind of used. And this is our new version going into the light tractor back there, where we've got our own magnesium housing. We've kind of built a little bit beefier planetary carrier for this. Now I've got a few of these that are out there running, and some tractors like Brian Bowles' tractors had these in his tractor for a few years, and Sean Weems, and so that's kind of the version we've made. We've changed the offset a little bit. This has got the factory offset where the planetary sort of sticks out and it's a little thinner, and this we've made so it's a little beefier and, you know, kind of, it's got a little more meat to deal with. So
my understanding is with the what the Europeans call a 2.5 ton modified, you know, their lightest class. A lot of their success has to do with that exactly, the Mercedes Planetary, because of its lightness.
Yep.
If we were to adopt something over here where we set a weight break at 5,500 pounds, or 5,700, whatever, you know, arbitrarily set a number, is something like that the key to unlocking that being a success with open driveline in front of it?
We're going to find out.
I like that answer. I like that
That's
answer.
all I can tell you. We're going to find out. So, yeah, that's been a desire of mine to put our planetary system in a twin engine modified tractor. So, yeah, I don't know if it ain't going to be this summer, but soon thereafter, hopefully.
I like that answer.
So.
All right. Well, Brent, we've certainly picked your brain quite a bit. If there's something else you want to show us, by all means do so. But I also want to honor our time commitment to you.
Sure.
For
Now, real
tonight
quick
as
here,
well.
we still do a fair amount of block work. We've got some different projects working on, some alcohol super stocks, some limited pros, some rear end components. I even got some Mitsubishi 4-cylinder racing engines that we do for one of our tenants here in another building. We kind of helped them develop their program with some tractor pulling technology into the import world. So
we're not that falls outside the scope of this program, but Cody and I also got our ears perked up at that. So
we gotta go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, gearheads to the end.
That's right.
It doesn't matter whether it's tractor pulling or if it's Evo stuff.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah,
So what shocked me was that you said bringing from the tractor pulling world across. So like, I don't know, that just kind of like blew my mind. You said you're like, normally we're trying to think about the other way. Like, what can we do from their industry into our industry to make something a little bit better? So you're talking like reverse almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you walk through that a little bit?
Well, the guys that we sort of rent a building to, we've got another building on the property here that's a pretty good sized building, but they started in a little shop and they kind of moved their way up pretty quick, and they're the 4th fastest Evo in the country right now. And they couldn't keep a head gasket in, so we helped them develop a sealing system very similar to what we use in the alcohol tractors. We machine the blocks and put Darden sleeves in them. We machine the head and put a wire receiving groove system in there, and now their engine is durable and makes laps. So they in turn help us with the electronic fuel system when we're doing that. So they did the wiring on the tractor and helped with the tuning and all those things. So it's kind of a back and forth relationship. We learn from them and they learn from us. So
what I heard was my GTI is now for sale for $25,000 cash, and I'm in search of an Evo 9 right now.
Evo 10. That's the better one to have right now.
Well, it is, but I had to aim a little bit low, offer a fair trade.
Yeah. They're kind of neat. They're not my cup of tea. I don't fit in one, so it's. But this is I'll show you. This is some of the lathe work we're working on here. They're machining bolt patterns in these hubs for those axles over there. So we got those. Are about ready to go to get splined, and we got some connecting rods we're starting to work on too. But we're waiting on some tooling because we wrecked one of the big cutters we use. So they're trying some new things, and we got a tooling guy coming in again this week to bring us some more things to try out. So constantly try to get a little faster, a little better, a little smoother. So, but we can show them. What else we got to show them, Doug? We can show them a few other things here. What else we got?
Exigent Solutions, is that your partner shop?
Yep. This is kind of some of the raw materials and staging waiting to get worked on. We got some differential parts. We got oil pan kits that are coming to get ready. We welded material for differential cases and things like that. Timing gear blanks, and this is our dart and sleeve shelf that's usually full, but we can't get raw material. So this is all sleeves that are pretty well spoken for by customers. So raw material. Yep. More timing gears here. Some sleeves they've been cutting. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything.
Well, awesome, Brent. I appreciate so much of the tour of the shop, and like I said, I want to honor our commitment to you and to our next guests. Mm-hmm. So we're going to stop things there, but to be continued, because I'd love to hear some more about what you guys
for
are
stuff
doing.
that you want to see specific or things that people like to see. I'm happy to show you. So
we made some cool videos today. We're going to be here at least tomorrow as well, making stuff for their page. So there's going to be some cool stuff coming.
Awesome.
Great.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Russ Harms. Thank you, guys.
See you later.
Russ, thanks so much for hanging out in the green room.
Yeah,
and
you
listening
bet.
to all that.
Are you Are you rested up yet? Or are you still catching up like the rest of us?
Yeah, I may have taken a couple naps today. I'm not gonna lie.
You're lucky. Let me tell you. It's a haul.
Yeah, that's for us. That was probably about one of the worst things there was. But other than that, man, I tell you what, it was great.
Yeah. I was talking to your dad and he's like, "Yeah, we took the pickup. It's a little bit cheaper." And then he showed me the fuel can. So Charles, they put the bed cover, tied it up against the cab, put 4 tires behind that, and had a brand new can of VP racing fuel right in the back, and it got smashed to beat living, and didn't leak, but it got smashed, and we had a nice
Happens.
chat about that.
Yeah, I don't know how it didn't leak. Pretty surprised. I as much as that stuff is, I'm glad it didn't leak.
Yeah. Well, and then you get down there, and it's not like you can just go to the store and grab that quick type of thing. It's kind of specialized a little bit too.
Yep.
So walk us through your start into pulling and kind of a little bit about the history and where you are today.
Yeah, there's the old can. Now I started helping or when Dylan Lemke started probably, I don't know, 6 years ago or so. I was always interested in pulling, and he kind of started in the diesel truck and 2.6 slotted, and kind of morphed into the the 3.0 side of it. And as he was upgrading parts and stuff all the time, well, we kind of just accumulated some parts, but always thought about putting a truck together. And one day, Thanksgiving weekend, about 4 or 5 years ago, he dropped off a frame and said, "Get busy." So it was all downhill from there. But yeah, it was been a good time. It's been really good. Dad and I, for us in Nebraska, we have went all over the United States with this truck, and then met a lot of cool people, and it's just amazing to see all the cool people and all the cool scenery and all the driving and stuff we've done, and definitely something I'll never forget.
So Georgia, coming off of Diesel Dark Corners, is that the farthest southeast you've been?
Yeah, I think we usually do a Shipshewana trip, and we've done Shides a couple years. But yeah, this is definitely as far south and east as I've been. I think it was a little over 17 and a half hours for us to get there. So
How far west have you guys traveled?
probably not terribly far west. We were going to go to the Colorado pole, but didn't line up very well with my work, so we didn't get to go to that one. But we spend most of our time every weekend in pulling season right over in Missouri. We don't pull much in Nebraska. It's always over in Missouri.
Yeah. And there's not a straight road to get where you're going, so it takes twice as long.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much once we get into Missouri, yeah, there's no more straight roads.
I give a lot of the guys down there hell saying it's goat paths, because some of those roads, that's what it feels like we're on. So
yeah, I remember when we first started going over there, when we were driving the semi, Dad, he was two-handed white knuckle driving that, and now after 5 years, well, he just pulls the seat back and one-handed driving and 60 mile an hour down the road, and not a care in the world anymore.
I do have to say, when they tell you a 45 mile an hour curve, you probably should be going 35 mile an hour curve, because like in Iowa, 45 means you can still go 55, not in Missouri.
Yeah, if it's bad enough they put a sign on it, they mean it.
Yeah. What's So what's it like with your dad going every weekend and stuff, pulling with you?
It's cool. We spend a lot of we spend a lot of time working on the truck, and honestly, with my work schedule, there's a lot of times there's a lot of stuff that gets done that's by him and not even by me. And if it wasn't been for him, there's a lot of pulls that I wouldn't even get to go to just because of um, getting working on stuff, changing ring and pinions, and just maintenance stuff. He he truly is the guy behind the scenes that gets a lot of that stuff done for me. There's a lot of polls that we go to where I gotta be to work at 5:30 in the morning, and we may not leave a poll till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'll be sleeping in the back of the toter, and he'll drive that semi home all night just for me to hop back in a car and go to work the next morning.
That's pretty neat to have something like that to where, you know, it's a well-oiled machine at that point where it's not just one guy does it all, the other one's just along. Like the relationship that you two have together is pretty neat to watch.
Yeah, he gets a good kick out. It's a fun little thing for us to do. We enjoy it, and we like going out and driving and just kind of seeing the countryside, and pulling's just a nice little bonus.
Yep. So how was your experience down in Georgia? What did you think of the event down there?
Oh man, I tell you what, it was great. I mean, JW Oliver and his family, we parked right up next to him, and I mean they fed us like kings and treated us just like one of their own, and it was just truly family for the just going over there, and it was an awesome show. It's a lot different dirt than we're used to pulling on, but it just so consistent. I mean, we had 32 trucks in our class, and I really think from the first hook to the last hook that track wasn't any worse or any better than anybody else. It was, I mean, even Shides can't even run that many trucks on a track and split them up, and it still changed. So definitely, it's definitely a cool track, awesome place to be. Even the facilities are great, good parking, and like I said, the only thing it is terrible is just the drive.
Yeah. Yeah. We flew, so we cheated just a little bit, but yeah, it's a neat event, and like I think the key point there is front to back, you can't really stay consistent in a lot of tracks. Where down there it's complete different, and it would have been I think Saturday night's track would have been even better yet, but unfortunately we got dealt a nice bunch of rain type of thing that made things a little bit challenging, and we ended up having to call the pull a little bit early. But I think the overall, I mean, it's such a unique track down there, and what they've got going, it's a lot of fun. The atmosphere, you get guys, I think you're probably the furthest west of anybody that came this year. But you get guys from, out here to Pennsylvania, New York to Florida, even in Texas. And it just feels like a local pull. And that's something unique that, a lot of places it's, you kind of got your groups you stay within, and down there it's everybody's having one big event and one big hoorah type of thing. And it's just a neat atmosphere. So I was glad to have you guys come down there, because you guys are kind of like local boys for me. So, but
yeah, no, we thoroughly enjoyed that trip. Like I said, I think my only regret is just not going down earlier and spending more time there and just kind of taking it all in.
Yeah. Now you made some setup changes here within the last year, and changed a few things up and found a few extra things. Of how much of a difference has that made this year for you?
Yeah, we went from factory ECM and electronics over to a standalone, and while we did pick up some power, I'm kind of having to learn to drive the truck all over again. It's definitely a lot more of a challenge. So I've been trying to get as much seat time in that thing as I can to try and get back where I was a couple years ago. But it definitely makes a lot more power, but it a lot more of a handful to keep it going on the track.
Did you go to Bosch or Motec?
Bosch.
Gotcha. Bosch seems to be a little bit more. It's not that it's harder; it's a little bit more jargon in terms of deciphering what the menus are and what they mean versus the Motec.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've seen a little bit. I haven't dug into the Motec, terribly much at all. Actually, I can't even say I've dug into the Bosch too much at all. That's pretty much been Patrick O'Brien. He's set all that stuff up with that and Exergy. Got us pretty well set up with that. And it's Lemke started out on that combination, and I got all his old parts. So it's a proven combo, and it works. It's just I gotta kind of learn to drive things all over again.
I was going to ask you if you going toward the Bosch side, if you were Exergy, and you revealed that. And Pat O'Brien, he's a pretty smart guy when it comes to building engines for these things. He knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he's with the common rail side of things. I mean, he still does a lot of P-pump stuff, but in the common rail side of things, I mean, he's amazing at that stuff. Just the ideas that floating around in his head, the different things to try and things that he wants to try, and whether it be motor related, chassis related or anything, and he's never stopping, always trying to do more things. And it's always, I think for the most part, it's just everybody's money's a limitation, and I think it'd be crazy to see what he could do with unlimited funds. I mean, the guy truly is never stopping on the product development, always got new things, and he's got so many outlets with Kenny's machine and all the CNC stuff that they can do, and all the cool things that Hart's puts out for turbos, and even not even just turbo, just other parts. And it's just crazy to even see what our little 2.6 truck has gone through and what they can all do.
Pat's one of those classic guys where he's got a lot going on inside, in his head, between his ears. If you were to meet him at an event, he's so quiet and booming, and you'd walk right past him. But he's brilliant. He really is brilliant.
Yep, he definitely a reserved person and stays pretty close to himself. But yeah, he even I think on Friday night, I think the 2.6 truck, the 3.0 truck, I think the super stock truck. I mean, he had more wins in every class than anybody else. So
yeah,
I think, and he's pretty humble about it. And
he is
cool.
He totally is. Yeah, I've seen that. Good guy.
It's really fun. I saw him under the hood of another truck that I know that he probably didn't touch, but he was over there visiting with them, and both of them are engine builders type of thing, going back and forth type of thing, and just it's not a Snoopy, it's just an appreciation back and forth, and talking ideas, and that's a lot of fun to see, and you don't always see that, and so yeah, I can second that one a lot too. So
yeah, I've seen him and Chase Fleece sit on a concrete block at Shides talking more than once. So for them two guys to be on that level, to be talking and stuff, that's pretty cool. But yeah, Patrick, he's done us well. Like I said, I know Lemke got us pointed in the right direction and got us meeting with the right people, and to be able to even have a truck of this good decent enough caliber to be even thinking about even driving that far to participate. So
yeah. What's one of your favorite tracks that you've pulled on here in the last couple of years?
Oh, favorite tracks, we got a couple in Missouri. There's like a Graham and a Grant City. Probably my favorite one is the one that Brent Roberts puts on the 102 Valley State Line Showdown in Bedford, Iowa. Probably has to be my best track. Best, Brent puts on a heck of a pull there, 2 tracks, and it's good dirt. It takes all the power in the world, and it's a fun one to be on. The tractors run real good. The trucks with the DOT tires love it. And that's an awesome event down there. That's probably one of the better ones that we've been on.
Yeah, I like it also, not only because it's kind of a power track, but it's also like 45 minutes from my house. So that makes it really nice when you don't have to drive 2 hours to go to a good track. So, but yeah, they do a hell of a job down there, and it's a lot of fun to watch that track. So.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think they're going to try and make it a little bit bigger again this year. It's what I've kind of heard, and that facility is great. I mean, it's got all sorts of good parking, pretty easy to get to, and track's nice and wide. And like I said, running 2 sleds, and it's a great event. He really took that place that wasn't being utilized and really making something of it.
Yep. So has Dad ever drove? I mean, he didn't pull back in the day, did he, or has he?
No, he never did. I got close to getting him into the driver's seat a couple times when the points wasn't really going to matter or anything like that, and I got him really close to getting in the truck, but I haven't successfully done that yet.
We can help prod that along. You know that, right?
Yeah, I think this time's coming. I think as soon as I kind of get this truck a little bit more figured out and kind of what to be able to tell him what to do, I think we'll just have to get him on a track somewhere and just get him some seat time. I think he'll enjoy that.
Has he ever said much about wanting to drive at all, or you just?
He asked about it once and only once, but it was kind of a points thing that night. But I think he just kind of the same way as we just like going around and meeting people, and we're all kind of almost family and stuff now. So I think he just enjoys getting out and kind of living part of his retirement a little bit and just kind of seeing the country. And this is just a good tool to do it.
Yeah. You got big plans for changing things up for next year at all, or?
I think we're gonna get the motor out and freshen it, and I think we got a couple things up the sleeve. Obviously, probably try and get back on the dyno and trying to squeeze a little bit more power out of this thing, but not terribly a whole lot. I think we may narrow up the rear end a little bit if we get time to get the tires just a little bit closer to the frame and try and cut them 2 separate paths. But other than that, not really a whole lot. Can't really do a whole lot because, well, Shipshewana is coming up here and not too terrible long, so I don't want to get her too tore apart for that.
You guys entered for that one?
We haven't entered it yet, but I'd like to go there again. I think I've been there the last 2 years in a row, and that's a pretty good event.
From what I hear on the backside, don't dawdle. If you want to go, get entered.
Okay. Yeah, I seen the 2.6 numbers are starting to creep up a little bit, so yeah, I should probably get my name stuck in the hat here before long.
Yeah, I may or may not have a pipeline into the backside of that, so I'm just personal advice. Get entered.
I will do that.
When we get done, just go ahead and do that. It's okay.
Yeah, I think so. It probably should happen.
How much? So the big thing that your dad and I were talking about a little bit about the tire change on the rear. You guys changed up tires a little bit and had some different size tires that are supposed to be a little bit wider, but actually were narrower than the front tires this year at Georgia.
Yeah, we've been having. I didn't get bead locks put on my rear tire, so on a 16-inch rim, I've been having trouble with the mud tires spin the rim spinning inside the tires. So I switched to a 17, which on the website say they measure wider on the tread than the 16s, but in reality they do not. So I was a little unimpressed with that when I got home and put a tape measure to it, and I'm like, this is not good.
I'll imagine you don't want to say what brand of wheels those were.
No, it wasn't the wheels, it was the tire itself, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was not represented very well on the measurements on the website. I have now found out. So,
Do we want to say? No, we probably don't want to say what tires those were. We don't want to give that away to the competitors.
yeah, well, it'd be the ones I took off for going to pull Saturday. So,
Well, if you were there, you can go back and search video or footage and figure that out. I suppose.
yeah, I was told not to put my mud tires on because those are just only Missouri tires only. But some habits die hard, and I at least wanted to try them. And but we were gonna definitely switch tires for Saturday, like I said, but that didn't pan out very well. But kind of just was really curious to see if it would take that tire, but should have listened to everybody and took them off and switched it.
For the tracks that you run on and where you're at geographically, are you finding that there's a particular tire that works? And I'm not going to deliberately ask you what those tires are, but beyond that, is there a mismatch that deliberately works, meaning something different on the front versus the rear?
Yeah, I would say our pretty much typical Missouri tire combo is mud tires up front and either all terrain or a all terrain tire in the back. Seems to work really well. Haven't been to too many places where that combo just doesn't not work.
That's actually pretty consistent with what I find a lot of times. It seems like it's STS all around or mud grapplers in front and STS in the back.
Yeah, that's our pretty much combo most of the time. Then with our newfound power over the year, I switched from the STSs on the back to just putting muds all the way around, and for the most part, I think it's helped. But it's kind of a little bit learning to drive it. Again, they do definitely bite a lot harder.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of switched to the mud tires all the way around for the remainder of the year, and it's probably where we'll pick up next year.
It's interesting because that's actually a choice and trend against what I would say is the common direction to go with friction versus bite, and you've chosen bite. But for where you're at geographically, maybe it works in those tracks.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Jason Wayman and for the most part Adam Kincaid. I mean, them guys have run the nation with 6 mud tires on all the way around and have good success. So and I know they're definitely not hurting in the power department. So obviously it works for them. Should be able to work for me.
It's definitely going to take it. It's going to take a lot of power to plant those and dig and to throw it against the buckboard and still be able to pull through it.
Yeah, I've used kind of more the mud tires more as just a tool to just help me get going. Patrick's always given me plenty of power, and I've just always been short on drivers, so I kind of usually use that to my advantage. So definitely
just push the handle down harder. We'll get there.
Yeah, so the mud tires for me have kind of helped me get going a little bit better off the start. But that's kind of where I've been using them.
That's actually in its own way, that's a little counterintuitive to me too, because I just go like a biting tire versus meathead driving style. Like I just see bounce. I see bounce. Whereas like a tire that'll slip, like you could just hammer it and all right, we'll go and we'll modulate it on the clutch, but we'll get off the line. But you're telling me the opposite kind of.
Yeah, I think where our trucks are low horsepower, lower hitch, and single tires, we're abusing them pretty hard to the point where, you know, we don't see the bounce like the 3.0 trucks do so much. And you know, the extra power that they have and 2 inches more hitch, I think that's, you know, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's fair. But being single rear, you can slip where those guys can't. They're going to grab and they're going to bite.
Yeah, I think I've talked to some other guys too around, you know, as far as like Ray J. Clerk from Wisconsin, and you know, I think we've hit our power point where I don't think adding much power it's not helping anymore. But you know, everybody always wants more. But I think we've kind of reached that point on single tires where we're, you know, more is not going to necessarily be any better.
Is there a particular track that you think you could go to where, in lieu of the mud grapplers and the gear ratio you're running, you could go to, say, an STS, but speed them up and change your finals and go faster and make it work?
Yeah, in our Northwest Missouri group, our tracks are pretty well consistent, where I don't know if I would speed it up and change to more of a STS or all-terrain tire. I don't know a lot of times if it would make a big difference. Now, if we go a little bit further south, you know, southern Missouri for like Missouri State pulls, they have a touch bit more sand where, you know, I think then that's, you know, where you go back to the, you know, muds up front and, you know, STSs or generals in the back. That seems to, like I said, you know, about throwing the dirt in front of the buckboard, that seems to make a little bit more of a difference down there.
Generals seem to be kind of more like you know, you get really into the sand track kind of thing where the generals work.
Yep, I agree. I think, you know, guy ever go out to Colorado again, I think, you know, generals or STs out there would be usually a pretty good tire. And then I think too, if the track gets, you know, if it's really hard but not dry, I think the generals would be a nod there.
Awesome. No, I appreciate the candor on that. That's good info. You know, so there's always somebody who's watching this show and who wants to break in and like try to make those same decisions that you made breaking in yourself. You know, what do I do? Where do I start? And for where I'm at, the tracks I'm confronted with, what do I need to be rolling on? And it's good info.
Yeah, we got a set of wheels for the muds and a set of wheels for STSs and a set of wheels for generals. And, you know, we've kind of been settling in these muds here the last couple of years and seems to run pretty good. But, you know, we're definitely not afraid to switch anything up if it seems like it might be a little bit better.
Where did you guys finish up in the points this year for Missouri?
I ended up getting second, but I had my serpentine belt tensioner broke, and it ended up frying. I ended up ruining 2 CP3 injection pumps out of the whole deal. So I missed our like 4th of July weekend pull where we normally have 3 hooks that weekend. So I didn't get good hooks that weekend, and actually completely missed one of them because it wouldn't even run anymore. The whole system was completely full of fine metal, and had to put 2 new injection pumps on it and have all the lines cleaned and the injectors shipped off back to Exergy and ultrasonically cleaned and sent back. So there was a couple weeks there where I didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah. And actually, like the Burlington Junction pull, that, I mean, for a small pull that it's like what 40 some 50 some years they've been having that pole. I mean, it's an old pole, but I remember Gary Sabaka being the sled operator. He's like, that's one of the best tracks I've ever been on. Here last year, maybe I think it was, and they do an excellent job at that, as far as getting everything ready. For a smaller pole, it's not an association, a big time association. It's they got a pretty good track there, and that's what makes it kind of fun to have a good track locally like that.
Yeah, Burlington Junction. That, like I said, I'd say besides Bedford, that's got to be another one. It's a great track. I mean, like I said, it takes power, and it's nice and wide, and it's pretty well consistent from beginning of the night to the end of the night, and it's good for trucks and tractors, and it's yeah, like I said, that's another good one.
Well, not only just through the night, but it's consistent like the entire track. It's not there's a hole at the end of the track, you got to go right. They do a nice job of keeping the track consistent from start to finish and filling in holes and everything, because that's half the battle of what line work for somebody else. They took everything out of it. So kudos to them down there for that, because they do an excellent job there. But yeah.
Yep, I think Brent's last couple of years has even announced that one too, and why he I know he doesn't maybe not like to, but he does really good job of announcing that thing. So
He does, and I can't wait for to give his son the microphone again, because that was quite comical.
yeah, he might just be a chip off the old block.
Yeah, I don't remember how old his son is, Charles, but they got his son on the microphone, and of course they had 4-1s. Brent's running 4-1s with faster horses and the Outlaws, and his son gets up there, and then you got to ask, well, how do you think Dad's going to do? He's like, not very good. And it's like, why is that? He needs more parts.
Yeah.
Great.
Leave it to your son to keep you honest, and mine does keep me honest. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I can't remember how old he is now, but I know I've been getting quite a few Snapchats where Brent's been saying that he's finally getting some labor work out of his kids, and they're out there. I know Trenton's been out there driving tractor and grain cart, getting some Snapchats from that. So that's pretty cool. So
yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, my son has learned to run a Class 8 sled, and so now like he knows everything. He's smarter than his old man.
Yeah, they seem to think they get that knowledge pretty fast, like they're about invincible.
You know what? He's earned it. He came by it the right way. He showed attentiveness and a willingness to learn, and paid attention to his teachers. And yeah, he does. He's shown good instincts in the cab and in terms of operating it, and when to pull a kill switch on somebody, and how to operate it. So it's the one thing that in the sport that I haven't done. So I've driven, he hasn't. I've announced, he hasn't. I've flagged, he hasn't. He's run a sled, I have not. So he's got me there. He's earned his way, and he'll make a fine sled operator, and he's got a future in the sport. He'll be all right.
Yeah, that's Dad and I have joked about that. If we ever quit pulling, I think just so I can keep going.
Yeah.
The thing I'm most afraid of is that he's going to con me into buying him one of those. And I don't know, what time is it? Have they drawn the 1 point, whatever it is, $2 billion yet on the Powerball? Maybe I'll buy like 6, but that'll be for another day, I guess.
I'm sure Brandon Bungar would probably sell you one if you wanted one.
Oh, if I win that much money, I can afford brand new. I don't have to buy one of his.
So besides Ship, where else do you think you're going to do for indoor polls this winter?
And then Kansas City, we'll definitely go to Cowtown again. It's close enough for us to not go. So, yeah. Well, it's really the only 2 indoor polls that they really even allow to even in. So we always try and stick ourselves in the class just to make sure we add another. They allow us
Um, well, we look forward to having you at both. I don't know if I'll make it to ship yet, but Charles will be there, and I'll see you at Kansas City. But since Ryan's not here to ask the question of the night, hypothetically, if you could steal the keys to any vehicle, past or present, what would you pull? Where would you pull, and why?
was that you was cutting out.
Hypothetically, if you could steal the keys to any vehicle, past or present, what would you pull? Where would you pull it, and why?
Ooh, probably like to take the keys to Shane Kellogg's Bedford's track.
You cut out for just a minute. Say that again.
I'd take the keys to Shane Kellogg's super stock truck and put it on Bedford, Iowa.
I think you're probably the first person that's ever said Bedford, Iowa. So
Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah, I would. I mean, just from watching their hooks and stuff like that, and just seeing what that dirt and stuff is like, I think it'd be crazy to see those guys out there on that track. I don't know if they would like it or not, but I would love to see them out there. I think they would. They'd actually be able to use some of that horsepower that they got.
yeah, I would agree with that. That's one of those tracks that like you don't really think, like you said, they've done a great job with it, but it's one of those tracks you don't think they've done. We're in the middle of nowhere type of thing, and it's not a very reputable track, but it's gonna be, and it's getting to be there. And seeing some of them guys over there that think, looking for power tracks, I think that's one that's going to sneak up on them, and they're going to find out.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I know Brent and them guys are trying to push it and trying to get it a little bit bigger, and they will over time. But it'll be a good track. I think the other one that's probably pretty good one's in Springfield, Nebraska. That clay's pretty good there too. I know. I think they was trying to get the Champions Tour class there for PPL for a couple times, but that's another good one. The track's pretty good there too.
Yeah. Really good. Well,
Russ, I appreciate you taking time out of your night tonight and joining us.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a good one. Like I said, I've been watching quite a few of your guys' videos and stuff on here. So when I was asked to be on one, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? That'd be an honor.
We'll have you back again.
All right. Well, I will look forward to the message.
give Ryan hell, because we've all come off from a long weekend, and him and I are both under the weather, and Charles is just exhausted. So be sure to give him hell for inviting you and not getting you on and not having him on. So
yeah, I've been away for 17 hours coming back from the East Coast from a different event from what you, Cody, and Ryan were at. So yeah, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, he hasn't even got my Snapchats from my ride home, and like a Snapchat from every state. So I figure when he opens them up, then I'll have to give him some hell.
Yeah.
His wife was telling me earlier he slept all day long, that he didn't make it to work, and he's not been feeling too good. I said, that makes two of us. So
yeah.
Weak sauce.
Right. I'm sure he'll come back to the land of the living here at some point. So
yeah.
But next time we'll have to get Pops on here with you and have him on as well.
Yeah, we will definitely do that.
So, well, thank you, Russ, for coming on. We'll look forward to seeing you on the indoor polls here this winter.
You bet. Sounds good. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Russ.
Yep. See you.
See you. Well,
we're the skeleton crew tonight, Charles.
We're the skeleton crew, and I apologize. Like, I was terrible about keeping up with comments and anything else. I did what I knew I was going to do, nerding out with both these guys, Brent and Russ. And yeah, and I'm up, like I said, I've been up since 2 a.m. I'm a little loopy.
Yep.
It's been one incredible weekend in my world when it comes to motorsports, and I think it has been for you guys, for you and Ryan too. So
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, of course, everybody that was down there kind of, bummer that, it rained out, but it happens. I mean, it doesn't, you can't do anything about it. You can't change anything about it. And it happens. And, the one thing I got to say is although even as, flying down there, how many hours and stuff and being down there, I want to take pictures. I want to take videos, like all of that. But like we've talked, you get to the 10th puller or 5th puller or whatever, they drug all that mud and track and stuff on the track. There's everybody behind them is in risk of over revving and breaking something that they don't want. And it's the right call to make. And them guys put on a great show down there, and it's always a good event. So can't say nothing bad about it.
no, I back their decision 100%, and for the reasons you enumerated, and even beyond that. Like I've never been there. I don't know. It may have been a situation where even the pits deteriorated and you start trashing the grounds. And that's what a lot of fans don't really realize. That, well, the track was fine. We could have gone pulling. Yeah, you maybe could have, but you would have ruined the facility that was responsible for providing that event. And that's behind the scenes. I understand the concept that you're the ticket buying public that needs to be catered to, but if you don't also cater to the competitors who are bringing you the show and being the participants in what is happening, if they get a bad taste in their mouth, they don't come back and they don't provide the show that you want to see. So I'm not disagreeing with your notion that it is all about you, quote unquote, but it also is about the competitors and taking care of them and making sure that they are satisfied and things are made convenient for them to be able to have their competition and participate. So it's a fine line that I don't think people really realize unless you're on the promoter side to know that that's a thing. And it's not me or it's certainly not Cody or Jason or anybody tied to this or anybody tied to the Pullers Championship saying it or anybody else who's been a promoter behind an event that draws people in from thousands of miles away. It's a tough call. How do you make that right choice? It's tough. And
nobody wants to cancel a poll.
No one wants to. I had to be a party to canceling my hometown poll for the second day this past August. I didn't want to have that conversation with the fair board president. I didn't want to say no. I wanted the show to go on. I wanted to get up in the tower and do a program and send stuff on the track. But we had to look at what the reality was, especially in light of what we did the night before. I shared the photo a few weeks ago of Charlie Capozzo, super farm puller on a bulldozer fixing our track on Saturday night. We already fixed it once. And Charlie didn't get paid for that. That was his own volition to make that happen. There was no extra expense to extend the program Saturday night and make it happen. And we got it in, and we were thankful for that. But come Sunday, even with a track with drainage and an arena with drainage, it wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to save it twice. And so that sucks. And it's amplified even more when you go to a place like Diesels and Dark Corners where the majority of your competitors are driving 500 plus miles to be there. I think they made the right call.
On a different note, holy cow, Brady Ingram, 38.2 miles an hour. Like new
38.
record. 38.2. Like hauling the mail. So yeah. That was pretty cool. And Van Hazley put it out there, and everybody's like, it's going to be pretty hard to beat. And here comes Brady. And I think Van had the previous record at like 36 point something. And he had told us they were walking by. Ryan had asked him how fast he'd been. And I think 37 was how fast he'd ever thought he'd gone. And Brady came out there and stuck it at 38.2. And they wrote it on the wall in the announcer stand even because they're like, yeah, that's faster than anybody has ever gone down the track. So kudos to them and their setup because that was pretty fun to watch.
Well, the last couple of days have certainly been record breaker time. If you're in the diesel world, it's been record breaker the last couple of days. We've seen some astounding stuff. I'm going to share a couple things with you guys outside the pulling world, but it's relevant to the stuff that we're all into. And it starts with this morning. There was an event at Maryland International Dragway, World Cup final. It's import versus domestic. Killer preparation, all the glue you could ever imagine. And I'm not attributing what happened this morning strictly to that because the team behind it has certainly earned their way to it. But there's a new, fastest, quickest diesel-powered anything in the whole world. And it belongs to Matty Graves and the Holly Rock Customs Dragster. This morning in a private test session, we can't call this an official record. It was a private test, but this time slip came up. We don't care about the quarter numbers down here because she was not driving to that. Diesel world, we exist 8th mile because of sanctioning. 3.963, 187.5. That's the quickest any diesel period has ever gone in the 8th mile. And it's a twin turbo Duramax dragster that did it. Knowing Mike and his daughter Maddie and that whole family, great people, excited for them to have that success. They've worked for this for a couple of years. Mike has been reluctant to let that dragster loose, I think, out of self-preservation for his daughter. But Maddie's proven that she can drive it, and he let her have all the nitrous and all the torque converter lockup. And today was a great day. They learned some stuff today, and I couldn't be more proud to see what within the drag diesel world, maybe as an outsider team, have that honor. They deserve it. They really deserve it. So that was super cool.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty wicked cool. So it was what? Fastest diesel, fastest woman?
I don't know if they had the ET record or the speed record. I'm not sure on that one. ET record, 100%. Duramax record, female driver record, which when it comes to drag racing, his drag racing has always been without intention or artifice or whatever appendage you want to put on it, always been inclusive. Race, creed, color, gender, doesn't matter. Drag racing has always been the form of racing where everybody has a place and everyone has been successful. So I'm not pushing an agenda there. I'm just stating a fact. There's other forms of racing where they do deliberately push it where we're trying to do this. Drag racing has always had it. And we have a very, very, very talented young lady who is the fastest among that style of racing, and she's earned her way.
Yeah.
It's not spectacular because she's female. It's spectacular because she did it.
I think it's spectacular because it's not just here's the keys and go drive it. It's they've worked at it for how many years now to get to this point too.
And she's the only one to ever drive that dragster. Her dad didn't do it. Her dad didn't baseline it. He's the tuner. But Mike's experience is a triple turbocharged Duramax crew cab truck that weighs 8,000 pounds. He has no seat of the pants in that dragster.
Right.
It's always been Maddie. And they've earned their way, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing we did this weekend that was an accident.
I was waiting for this one.
Yeah, we got to. We can't let this go. We got to talk about this. I wanted to isolate the video to explain how we got there, and I ran out of time tonight. I was at an event called All Truck Challenge out in Del Mar, Delaware, this weekend, and it's like UCC in terms of it's multidisciplinary, but it's a little bit different. Where the trucks have to be plated, they have to be entitled, they have to be insured, they have to go through a 100-mile street drive successfully. They've got a drag race, they've got a dirt drag, they've got a sled pull twice, and it's dyno. Well, Saturday night was a sled pull. Chris Patterson, the Unrivaled Diesel team, who he's been at UCC, he has a track record of success. He's the only wheel-driven truck on a dyno to slap 3,000 horsepower twice. At this event a year ago, he ran 3,000 horsepower to the tire, which no one had done before. And then this past August at Weekend on the Edge in Utah, 3,400. So it's the record breaker truck. For the sled pull at this event, they're allowed to spray 9,000 pounds. The weird thing is, and they have to be in DOT tire. The weird thing is they're 20-inch drawbar, not 26, like a sled pull truck or a custom 2 is. So it led to real bad chassis chatter, and it broke the rear end. So come Sunday, the last event is to do the dyno. And he's like, can I do it front wheel drive? Just leave the drive shaft out and we'll do it front wheel drive. Like he was up in the points based on finish from the prior events throughout the weekend. If nothing else, like, don't let me get a nothing. Let me at least take a start. So we get to the sled operator, and we ask him, and he says, well, it's basically a load cell. We get down to it. It's a load cell that's doing this. No one's ever done it. Drum spun reverse. I don't know. I don't know if we can do this, but I'm not opposed to trying. So Josh McCormack brings his side-by-side up there, because it's quick and easy. It's not going to be super high horsepower. We can strap it down real quick and just run a baseline in normal direction, spinning the drum the way you'd expect.
Wait, I never even thought about that thing being spun backwards. Like that makes this even like more wicked cool. Like I never even I saw the pictures, but in the video, but I never thought about it being spun backwards.
Yeah, we were spinning the drum backwards. We put Josh's side by side up there, strap it down, rip a number. All right, that's our baseline. We take it off, recalibrate the whole dyno, put the side by side back up the backwards now, spinning the drum the opposite way. Recalibrate, run a rip. It's within 1/2 horsepower. Okay. It's reading right. So we decide Chris is going to go first because now we got it calibrated reverse direction, and we do this. Ordinarily, you drive it through the rear tires. They're back there doing nothing. All the power is going to go through the front tires. We strap it down to the dyno through straps in the back. We chain it to this skid steer. The X straps are put on the axle. Josh McCormack gave his sled stops, which would go into the receivers on the front where the weight box would go, so we could have pull down into the dyno frame on the front end. We put side to side straps from the frame itself into the side of the dyno frame, because the real big concern was that this thing was going through the front end. It's got a locker in that front diff, but what was the steering going to do? Was it going to whip out of his hands? What the hell was going to happen? We had no idea. No one had ever done this before. It was just a stupid idea, and let's send it and see. So for the very first, Chris was nervous about it. For the very first rip, he was in a full fire suit, crash helmet, put it in tune 1, the base this thing could ever do, and let's see what happens. That was about 1,500 horsepower. He got out of the truck, shut it off, walked around, looked at the tires, said, I didn't feel anything. Life is good. Let's turn it up a little bit. $2,200 horsepower through the front tires and 3,000 pound-feet of torque. At this point, I'm going, how did the front end not just explode in a million pieces? Right. The front end never exploded in any pieces. The engine did. He was satisfied with the 2,200 horsepower rip, said, moon tune time, boys. This is the same block that's had the 3,000 horsepower rip and the 3,400 horsepower rip. Let's go. Number six hole, near as we can tell, gave up. It probably ruined the piston, and it windowed the block. It was 2,449 horsepower, 3,470 pound-feet of torque through the front end, and the torque and horsepower curves were still rising when it blew apart.
So I have 2 questions with this. Number 1, if it was rear powered, do you think there would be smaller numbers because of, the dissipation from the transfer from their back? We'll start with that one.
No, because it would have been straight through the transfer case. In this case, it had to actually go through the case in reverse direction. It probably would have been higher. I don't think, and this would be a question for Chris, because I'd have to. I don't have the actual dyno graph to see where it blew apart on the RPM curve. I don't think it was going to be a 3,000 horsepower hit, but I think it was going to probably go somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,800 to 4,000 torque. And the front end held all of that. Just, if you would have woke me up yesterday morning and said I was going to see that happen, I said, you're crazy. He's either going to get hurt, something's going to break, it's going to torque steer, it's going to smash a half shaft, the transfer case can explode. I could have come up with 1,000 reasons this wouldn't work. and I would have never expected the engine to be the failure point.
Right.
Just 22 years in racing, and you dive into some of the deepest, most obscure corners of, well, I've never seen that before. And this weekend, we had a top 3 moment in my motorsports career of, I've never seen that before. And all the credit in the world to Chris and the Unrivaled Diesel team for what they pulled off. I don't think there's anybody else who would have been brave enough to try it, let alone been successful as they were. And in blowing it up, it needs to be pointed out, for All Truck Challenge, which is an event where you go on a 100-mile street drive, you have to survive that. You have to drag race and go through eliminations. You have to dirt drag race and go through eliminations. You have to sled pull twice. And then Sunday, the last day, is the dyno part. He blew it up on the dyno part. He won the dyno at 2,400. And Josh McCormack, all credit in the world to him for reliability with his truck, who he didn't do anything except change oil and trans fluid, won the event overall, was number 2 on the dyno at 1,400 and change, 1,000 horsepower less through the rear axle the way you'd expect it. It's just, I can't wait to see what Chris is going to bring to UCC when we get there in June in 2023. It's going to be stupid.
So this brings up part 2 of my question. The big deal, you know, ball of fire type thing, the fire suppression working. We talk about safety a lot. When
Yes.
do you think that's going to be a requirement on the pulling side of it's going to have to be in, you know, we talk about some of the trucks type of thing, like, you know, it's known to catch it on fire, you know, this or that, because it's got oil dripping on the bottom, turbo, whatever. When do you think that plays an effect to it's going to be a requirement on the system?
I would be, and I'm probably going to piss people off with this. If you're 3.6 class and above, if you're 3.6 and above, you should have it already. It should be there, and you can go back and replay the bomb video. Hell, I'll play it right now. What I think the sound you hear of it sounds like the turbocharger grinding the housing. That's sort of that is not the turbo. When we were done, when it was safe to approach it and we popped the hood, the atmospheric charger was still spinning. The sound you hear is the boil off of that system. Chris smacked that really, really quick, and you're hearing boil off from that system. It put the fire out very quick. If you're on a 3.6 truck and above, I think it should be on there. I really think that Chuck Knapp on his Unlimited has it. I think it should be something on the Unlimiteds.
There's two drives.
Contend for it to be there on the modifieds. I would contend for it to be there on the super stocks and the pro stocks. It's not that heavy of a bottle. We're talking like a 15-pound unit, and you can have that spray on you and buy you some extra time beyond what the suit can afford you. You can spend $3,000 21 fire suit, and it's still not going to buy you the necessary time if you get knocked out in the roll cage in the midst of a fire. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see, however it's triggered, fire suppression be there. That's our biggest personal injury concern in this sport, and I'm all in favor of all of it.
Well, on the other side of that is, you know, you look at a lot of pulls, and they may not have the right equipment in the fire extinguishers that guys don't want. They may not have this is okay in this class, but not in that class for what's in the extinguisher. So having that system on there, and I know there's a few guys in the mods that have it, and there's a reason they have it. It's for that specific reason is they don't want what's in the fire extinguishers on the side of the track to go into the engine bay at all. And
Yeah.
that makes me really wonder if, does stuff like this really, it's 15 pounds and some plumbing and stuff like that. But if you can curtail of, it's your choice, I'll put it out myself type of thing and whatnot, don't touch it. Maybe that's a 15-pound bottle of, I don't have 15 pounds of movable weight type of thing that makes a big difference for them. So that's my 2 cents on it, because I think it's, not only driver safety, but when you're talking, you want to complain about engine bay safety, that's where I look at some of that.
I've seen plenty of videos where they show a fire on a methanol tractor, and they're splashing buckets of water on it. And the American arrogance comment is, what a bunch of Barney Fife bullshit this is.
Yeah.
Well, methanol's water soluble, dumbass. The best way to put that fire out is to throw water on it. And you will not wreck everything you're throwing the water on. So there's a lot of education that needs to take place. I don't know. That's the bigger thing. How do we educate the public in the world where social media makes everybody instant expert? And that's not just a safety teaching problem. That's an everything problem that's beyond the scope of this program. But that's where I'm at with it. How do you teach people where everybody's, I know everything?
Right. We don't have enough time to cover all that tonight, Charles.
Yeah, I'm way past. I'm going really deep in the.
But I think
stupid no sleep dimension. But I don't think the points are invalid.
No, and I think as we come into winter, that's something that like guys can think about is, what can I make changes on, and that's something that they may want to be thinking about. So
yeah, we definitely went a little bit sidetracked after dark.
That's okay. Like I said, nobody's watching anyhow, right? So
yeah, we're down to 31 of you. Thank you for hanging out, all of you who did.
Yeah. So
not going to promise you learned anything, but
maybe
you did.
So
anyway, thank you, Cody, for sacking up and getting in here with the sleep deprivation train.
Right. Yep. So, well, take care, Charles. We'll see you on the flip side.
Yes, sir. Next week, this show will be better because it won't be me having to quarterback it
or me.
Because, yeah. Anyway, good night. Thank you all so much for joining us. See you soon.